Hello, everybody. This is Alex here again. I'm up in Scotland right now. Let me show you what's going on outside. Beautiful. It's dry. It's cold. It's early February. And it's a good place to come and think and do things like this. So what we're going to do today is the beginning of a new series. It's on this book, The Synthetic Eye by Fred Ritchin, and it's a very it's the first really good book on that addresses AI and photography. There's a couple out. There's that one, and then there's Hito Stell's book, Medium Hot. But of the two, Fred Ritchin's The Synthetic Eye is the one that is of most practical help for the photographer. I mean, it's useful for all photographers, but particularly documentary photographers, because Fred Ritchin was he was a picture editor at the New York Times for a long time, and I'll give you more of a background on Fred Ritchin a bit later. But for now, I just wanted to introduce the series and to sort of set the tone and the scene, and tell you what to expect over the coming weeks. I'll be releasing. I'm thinking of it as 7, but it may well be 8 or 9 different episodes, or I may even fuse a couple of the chapters. I'm intending to go by chapter, and to be quite methodical about it. Well, I am going to be methodical about it, but I may merge a couple of the chapters as I go. But I'm recording this as a sort of way of finding my own way into discussing the book. I think it's a very good book. I think it is lacking, and I go into some detail in my introduction now about how I feel that it lacks a sort of vital, I guess, stage setting component. But having said that, Fred Ritchin is an incredibly experienced picture editor, and what he says comes with a great deal of history and knowledge. And he later in the book he describes his own suggestions for how to deal with and how to make the most out of the way information dissemination methods can improve the way that we consume photography, and warn us about, and he warns us about the dangers of AI imagery in a very practical way, giving plenty of examples of how it could be used in the future, and how it is being used now almost legitimately in a way which undermines the values of photography as we understand them. Anyway, so I'm going to go into that in detail, but for now I've got I've heavily noted the book. I've been through it. I've read it twice, and I don't know if you can see there, but I have noted it heavily and transferred those notes into quite a substantial document here, which summarizes his notes and where I've added my own observations to them. And so what I'm going to do for this episode, I'm just going to read an introduction that I've written. It's imperfect because I'm not a perfect writer, and when I read what I've written, I can always find fault with it. But I will read it, and I will break away from it to clarify areas which I think need clarifying. So here we go. On Fred Ritchin's The Synthetic Eye. This is an introduction to a 7 part series, or maybe more, or maybe slightly less, series of informal talks on Fred Ritchin's book, The Synthetic Eye, about AI and photography. These talks are for anybody who is either directly affected by the encroachment of machine-made images, or anyone who is interested to learn more and gain a greater understanding of where photography stands as we peer into the future of algorithmic image making. The Synthetic Eye was published in early 2025 by Thames and Hudson, so it's already out of date. AI is moving so quickly, and some of the examples that Ritchin gives seem almost quaint already. In my view, it is a book with some faults, but it does a very useful job of characterizing the challenges photographers face in the age of AI image generation. Heto Stahls' Medium Hot is the other notable book that addresses image making and AI, but it is not as practically useful. In each episode, I will address one of the 7 chapters of The Synthetic Eye, giving a synopsis of Ritchin's writing and my take on some of his observations and conclusions. Before we get into it, let's set the scene. I want to establish something that Ritchin doesn't, and I think that he should have, because it is so fundamental to our understanding of AI imagery. It's this: artificially generated photographs are not photographs. It sounds obvious, okay, and it is obvious, but it's actually cognitively harder to separate them. So let me go on. They are computergraphs that emulate lens-based light collecting image making, otherwise known as photography, a very much current technology which was present in our grandparents' albums and is still present in our phone cameras. So what we're discussing here is not what is an AI-generated image, but how AI makes something that pretends to be a photograph. So we're not looking at the image itself, we're looking at the processes whereby the technology creates something which looks like something that took place in space and time. And this is the bit that I'm still trying to get my head around. It would be just as natural for an AI to build an image to look like a cartoon, for example, or an oil painting. It's just that the lingua franca of imagery is photography, and AI technology is so good at making photo-like images that this is why we need to discuss this now, before we proceed with the rest of the book. How do we handle a medium that has nothing to do with photography and yet manifests itself as its identical twin, a brother from another mother, if you like? There is something of the Lacanian uncanny here, which I think a lot of commentators miss. If it walks like a duck, flies like a duck, then it is a duck, right? No, not in this case. AI-generated images give every appearance of being the same as photographs, so how we meet them, consume them, should be the same, right? No, not at all. The process by which a real photograph is made, whether digital or analog, is all the difference. A photograph is an image made organically from the ground up. It is made in time and light. Okay, so AI images that emulate this process should never be referred to as photographs or AI photographs or whatever, because they're not. They are photo-likes. Remember that word. That word is really important. They're photo-likes. And their moving cousins are movie-likes. These AI forms consist of matrices of pixels that have been arranged deliberately according to the commands issued by an algorithm. Photo-likes and movie-likes are built top-down. They are referents of desire, okay? Unlike their analog counterparts, the product of which is as latent as a drop of rain. I'm going to unpack that last paragraph, okay, just to make it a little clearer. Analog photography and film and digital photography, whether it's film or a digital sensor, are latent technologies, meaning that when the shutter opens and light is exposed either to the film, or the film is or the sensor is exposed to light focused by a lens, let's say, or not, it doesn't matter. Whatever whatever light falls on the lens in whatever condition on the sensor will be recorded by the sensor. Okay, I hope I made that clear despite my yammering. That is to say, they're latent. They don't create images. The light falls on them and they just record. They just can't help but record whatever's there, and then we look at it and we decide whether it's any good or not. Now, pixel peepers out there will tell me, and they'd be right to a degree, that digital sensors interpolate images to a very great degree. And in fact, Fred Ritchin does address this himself. But to all intents and purposes, let's compare, say, a CD of music, digitally recorded music, whether it is never hits a CD or whatever, or it just goes straight to MP3 or whatever, with a let's say that is analogous of a digital lens-based image. Okay, now in that something did happen in time and space, and it was recorded on either the film or the digital sensor. Okay, so that is what I mean by ground up. It's organic. The medium itself is not directing the image. Okay, now AI AI image making is the product of a desire, and that's got huge repercussions for the way that we see the world. Desire. I mean, this is getting into Freudian territory, but somebody desired something to look like something, or something desired something, and let's not get into whether machines are conscious or not. But the point is that something wanted to make an image look like something, so it created that image. Okay, so these two things, and that did not happen in time and space. So what it's presenting, what an AI image is presenting, is not something that happened in time and space. I'm not going to labor this anymore, but let's just say that we've established that the two things, although might superficially manifest in the same way, they are not at all the same, and photographs are not photo-likes, and vice versa. They are completely, the confusion comes from the fact that they look the same. Okay, that's it. And this is where the issue of, that we have to deal with comes from. So let's stop pretending that the thing that pretends to be photography is photography. Okay, it isn't. But the practical application of photo likes online, in news media, etc., means that they will be consumed as if they were photographs. I'm just going to stop this dinging. So that's why that's what gives us this urgency. So we need to meet this new reality head on. I argue that any really useful attempt at approaching the advent of AI photo likes should first describe what makes them different from legacy photography as a better way of separating their corpus from their sociological and cultural impact. Fred Ritchin has written a book, The Synthetic Eye, published last year by Thames and Hudson, that will be considered the first draft in an attempt to describe and navigate the new image reality that we live in. He does not separate photography from photo-like as photography from photo-like as I did above, and I think that this book would have been better if he had. But Ritchin's book is a very useful and possibly overly ambitious attempt to capture a moment in time. We are not even in the foothills of the AI revolution, and yet this technology is upending everything. Images are the way we communicate now. They go beyond literal language and straight to our hearts, whatever language we speak. I just want to sort of talk about that. This is very important. Who owns the image owns the message now. It used to be the word. It's no longer the word. It's the image. Okay, so that's why this is important for everybody, particularly everybody who cares about democracy, who cares about civil life, and cares about acting on the basis of truth. Okay, that's what it's about. That's what we're dealing with here. Fred Ritchin, bad actors are using photo likes and movie likes to poison the wells of democracy or steal pensioners' savings. We need to inform ourselves in order to protect ourselves. And Ritchin's book is a substantive and timely first step in that direction. I have read and reread The Synthetic Eye and have noted and commented on each of its 7 chapters. I'm going to release a commentary on each chapter over the coming weeks. I have not been exhaustive in the notes and issues raised in Ritchin's book. Rather, I have noted and responded to what I consider the key points and issues as they appear to me. You might take a quite different. You might have a quite different take on the book, and I urge you to get a copy so you can make up your own mind. Personally, I found Ritchin's book at times hard to read and I'm not quite sure who the audience is intended to be. I'm a photographer of the documentary photography kind, so I read it from that perspective. But any attempt to fully characterize the threat or opportunity that AI poses to photography is more or less impossible. So multifaceted is the medium. This is a problem for photography because when you say I'm a photographer, it could mean anything. But whatever your own slant, please remember that we are talking not about photography itself, but photo-like images. And that applies to us all, whether you are a sports reporter, wedding photographer, photojournalist, or commercial photographer. Whatever kind of photographer you are, arguably you need to understand the terrain that we are now in, and this book is a first step in that direction. As this is new to all of us, then nobody can be said to be more than a few pages ahead on the subject. So this is a voyage of joint discovery. Ritchin wrote the book, I read it, and now I'm discussing it with you. Read the book and we'll be exactly as expert as each other. And please join in the conversation through whatever means. If you think I'm wrong, please let me know. I'm no expert in this. I'm here to learn, okay? Thanks very much for staying with me so far, and keep listening for the first installment. Next time I'll be summarizing the Synthetic Eye's various chapters, and we'll give you a lot more background on Fred Ritchin himself. So watch out for that, and in the meantime, thank you so much for listening or watching, and I will see you soon. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.